Alrighty. So today we are talking about polynomials, and our first lesson is Introduction to Polynomials. So we're going to talk about a lot of things when we discuss our vocabulary. The first word that we're going to talk about is degree. Degree. So it says the degree is the largest blank found in the exponent. It's the largest blank found in the polynomial. It's the largest blank found in the polynomial. Well, it's the largest exponent. It's the largest exponent. And then I'm going to put a little kind of arrow or sum of a product. God bless you. Of variables. So it's the largest exponent on the variable term, and I'm just going to abbreviate that as VAR. It's the largest exponent on the variable term or the sum of a product of variables. And then I'm going to give you two examples because I think that definition can be confusing, but you might see both, okay? You might see both. So when I say that we are going to look at like an example, my first one is just going to be the largest exponent attached to a variable. So if I have 2x minus 3x squared, what is the largest exponent attached to a variable? So look up there, 2x minus 3x squared. What's the largest exponent that's hooked to a variable term? 2. Exactly, 2. So that means that this is degree 2. Okay. A different example would be something like if I had 4 plus 3x squared y cubed. So do you see how this one term has a product of two variables? We have to add the two exponents together. So it's the sum of the product. So what is the degree of this one, you think? Well, what's 3 plus 2? 5. So this is degree 5. This is degree 5. So that's what degree is. You're going to find the largest variable term, like variable on an exponent, or the sum based off of each term. Okay. The next one is standard form. So when we talk about standard form, so if I think back, I know that we had the standard form of a linear function. We've had the standard form of an exponential function. Every kind of equation that we set up in mathematics has a standard form. And the standard form for a polynomial is that we arrange the exponents from the largest to the smallest. So we're going to arrange it from the largest to the smallest exponent. And sometimes you're going to see that written as descending. It might say put them in descending order, and that's what that means, okay? So descending order means you're going to go from the largest to the smallest. Start at the top and work your way down, right? Like if you're in a hot air balloon and you're descending, you're starting at the top and you're coming down, right? So you start with the largest and you work your way down to the smallest, okay? Term. Our next vocabulary word is term. And it says it's the parts of an expression that are, anybody know what a term is? Well, they're multiplied together. I'm going to put that are multiplied together, and then I'm going to show you what I mean, I guess. Terms are things that are multiplied together, and they're joined by a plus or a minus. They're joined by a plus or a minus. They're joined by a plus or a minus. Ms. Urban, their filled out notes are sitting on top of the little white thing, if you don't mind, just whenever. If you don't mind, please and thank you. Leading coefficient. A leading coefficient. Well, that's the coefficient of the leading term in a polynomial. It's the coefficient of the leading term in a polynomial. It's the coefficient of a leading term. And it has to be written in standard form. So you have to put it in standard form to find out what term is leading, which one comes first. Our next word is constant. A constant is a term that has no variable. A term that has no variable. It is just a number. It's only a number. It's just a number all by itself. Okay. What about monomial? What do you guys think when you see the word mono? M-O-N-O, that prefix, mono. Have you guys learned prefixes? Yeah, they should have. Okay, well, a monomial is a polynomial that only has one term. A monomial is a polynomial that only has one term, like 3x squared. It's just all by itself, one term, joined by multiplication, right? That term, those pieces are connected together. They're variables and numbers hooked together through multiplication. A binomial is a polynomial that has, how many terms do you think? 2 terms. So an example could be 4 minus 7x cubed. Okay, that's a binomial. There are just 2 terms. What do you think a trinomial is? 3 terms? Yeah, it's a polynomial that has 3 terms. So thank you, ma'am. An example would be x squared minus 3x plus 9. That's 3 terms. So I said the terms are joined by multiplication, 3 times x, but they're separated, right? Or they're separated by plus signs and minus signs. Okay. And the last one, a polynomial. Well, any polynomial that has 4 or more terms. So 4 or more, we just call it a polynomial. We don't have specific names for something with 4 terms, 5 terms, 6 terms like we do for 1, 2, and 3. So 4 or more terms, it's just called a polynomial. And then I added a definition here because I think that it's important to make sure we write it down. And Violet defined it perfectly for us. Like terms have the same variables with the same power. Same variable with the same power. Okay. So we're going to look at 2, 4, 6. I think we have 7 examples. We have 7 examples, and we're going to have to identify the degree, which is the largest exponent on the terms. We're going to have to put it in standard form. Then we'll identify the leading coefficient. We'll identify the constant. And then we're going to decide if it's a monomial, a binomial, a trinomial, or a polynomial. And we're actually going to say how many terms it has off the side. So I added one more column and I just wrote number of terms. I wrote number of terms here. We're just going to kind of squeeze that in. All right, so our first polynomial, 4 minus x plus 2x cubed. I need to know the degree, so I'm looking for the largest exponent. I'm looking for the largest exponent on a term. So what is the largest exponent? Largest exponent is 3. Do you guys see how I circled that? So that means this is degree 3. Something that is degree 3 is actually called a cubic. If it's degree 3, it's called a cubic. It's called a cubic. Just like when you cube something, right? Standard form. So standard form says that you have to have the largest exponent term first. So it looks like the largest exponent term, well, that's the 2x cubed. So that's going to come first. And then what comes next? Minus x. Good job on remembering that there's a minus in front of it. Minus x. You guys are jumping ahead, and we're not doing that, or I'm going to gather up your filled out notes. Go back to where you should be, okay? So what's the last term? Plus what? Plus 4. You should be following along. Leading coefficient. What is the leading coefficient? 2. So it's the number that's attached to the leading term, and our leading coefficient is 2. Good job. What is the constant? Remember, a constant is a number that's all by itself. What is the constant? 4. Good job. So how many terms does this have? How many terms does this have? It has 3 terms, which means it's a trinomial. 3 terms, which means it's a trinomial. Okay. There are things that you guys that have filled out notes should be adding as I go through these, because I didn't name these polynomials. So you need to fill that in or add it with us as we move along. Okay. Let's look at our next one. How many terms are on this next one? Actually, not terms. Sorry. What is the largest degree or the largest exponent? 6. Yeah. So the largest degree is 6, and this just we name this as a 6th degree. That's how we name this. There's no special name for something that is a 6th degree. So I have to put it in standard form. So that means that this term with the exponent of 6 is going to come first. So I have negative 3x to the 6th power. Then what comes next? Close your Chromebook. Plus 4. Good job. Plus 4x cubed. Next. Plus x squared. Next. Plus 2. What's my leading coefficient? Negative 3. Do you guys see that? Your leading coefficient, negative 3. What is the constant, Travis? What is the constant in this polynomial? Nope. Noah. Good job. 2. How many terms does this have? How many terms? How many things are separated? How many clumps? Yeah, 4. 4 things are separated or joined, like separated with a plus or a minus. So its fourth has 4 terms. That means it's just called a polynomial. We don't have a special name for it other than that. And if I had to say what is the actual name, because we classify polynomials by their degree and their number of terms, I would say that this is a 6th degree polynomial. A 6th degree polynomial. Let's look at our next one. Okay. Degree. 1, yeah. Remember when there's no variable term or no exponent on your variable, it really contains a 1 there. Put it in standard form. Perfect. Negative 5x plus 3. Leading coefficient, Caden? Leading coefficient. What's the one that comes first? Coefficient is a number that's attached to a variable. Negative 5. Do you guys see that it's negative 5? Leading coefficient is negative 5. Constant. What's the constant, Lorenzo? Number that's all by itself. 3. How many terms does this have, Matthew? 2. So what do we name it, Matthew, if it has 2 terms? It's called a binomial. Okay. Next one. Negative 4x. Negative 4x. What's the degree? 1. If I put it in standard form, it's just negative 4x. There's nothing to move around. So what is my leading coefficient, Carla? It's a negative 4. Do you guys see the negative in front of it? Very good. Negative 4. Okay. What is the constant here? There isn't one. Okay. So I'm going to put that there isn't one. I'm just going to put NA. What degree is it? 1. Degree 1. Okay. How many terms does this have? How many terms does this have? It has one term. What do we call something with one term, Ashton? A monomial. Good job. Monomial. This is a monomial. Okay. What about the number 14? What about the number 14? What about the number 14? Is there a variable on that? No. So this is actually degree 0. This would be no different than saying 14 x to the 0 power. Why is that? What is x to the 0 power? Yeah, so this is just like saying 14 times 1, which is 14. That's why it's degree 0. I want to explain to you why that works, okay? So put it in standard form, it's just 14. It's just 14. What is my leading coefficient? Well, remember that a coefficient is a number that's attached to a variable, and there isn't one. There isn't one, okay? But what is the constant? 14. The constant is 14. This only has one term, and it is also a monomial. This is also a monomial. Okay. Next one. There's a lot going on in that next one. Let's see. X squared plus 4x minus x to the 4th plus 3x cubed minus 8. What do you think about the degree, Tayana? Largest exponent in there. It's a 4. Yeah, the largest exponent is a 4. So this is a 4th degree. When something, I'm going to write down what that's called. So if something is 4th degree, we call it a quartic. It's called a quartic. So we have to put this in standard form. So we want the largest degreed term to come first. So what's going to come first? Negative x to the power of 4. What comes next? Is there something that has an exponent of 3 on it? Plus 3x cubed. Yeah. Is there something that has an exponent of 2 on it? Plus x squared. Degree 1 plus 4x minus 8. So leading coefficient. Our leading coefficient is -1. Good job. Remember, there's a -1 attached to that x to the 4th. -1. What is the constant, Jansen? What's the number all by itself? Perfect. -8. How many terms does this have? 5 terms. So if it has 4 more terms, what do we call it? Yep, it's just a polynomial. Okay, it's just a polynomial. Next one, 2x squared minus 5x plus 1. How many terms, or what's the degree in this one? It's degree 2. And I want to tell you, if something is degree 2, it is called a quadratic. It's called a quadratic. QUAD. I have to erase that and try it again. I have to make the screen bigger, sorry. It's a quadratic. 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 Okay. When we put this in standard form, it looks to me like it's already in standard form. What do you guys think? Yeah, it is. It's already in standard form. So standard form is just 2x squared minus 5x plus 1. 2x squared minus 5x plus 1. What is my leading coefficient? 2. My leading coefficient is 2. My leading coefficient is 2. Constant. What's the constant in this? What's the number all by itself? Yeah, 1. Good job, you guys. 1. How many terms does this have? 3 terms. That means it's a what, Seamus? Trinomial. Three terms is a trinomial. Okay. So I'm going to shrink that up, make sure everybody got that. Okay. Go on to the next page. Go into the next page. We're going to write something off to the side. I'm going to write something off to the right side because you don't need a whole lot of room on the left. So off to this right side, I'm going to talk about the names of all of the degrees, right? So if something is degree 0, it's just called a constant. And we showed that by the number 14. Oops, I forgot to put a 0 in there. If it's degree 0, it's just called a constant. Okay, so degree 0 is a constant. If something is degree 1, like the 14x in our examples from before, like the previous page, if something is degree 1, we call that linear. We call that linear. If something is degree 2, we call that, and we already wrote that down, but I want you to have it again. We call it a quadratic. If something is degree 3, we call it a cubic. If something is degree 4, we call that a quartic. And we actually have a name for something that's degree 5. It's called a quin, Q-U-I-N, a quintic. Anything after that, you just say it by its name, like we did on the one that was a 6th degree polynomial. So those are the degrees. If it's degree 0, like 14, all by itself, a constant, it's called a constant. First degree linear, second quadratic. And we're really, this whole polynomial lesson is really going to work with things that are degree 2. That's what we're leading up to. All things that are degree 2. Okay. So we have to put each polynomial, we have to classify it based off of its number of terms and its degree. So what is the degree of the polynomial? What is the degree? It's degree 2. And so if something is degree 2, how do we name that? We call it a quadratic. So this is a quadratic. And how many terms does it have? Has 2 terms, right? So something with 2 terms is a binomial. So this would be an example of a quadratic binomial. This would be an example of a quadratic binomial. God bless you. Okay, let's look at the next one. What is the degree on this? Well, this is degree 2. I want to talk about this one. This is degree 2. This one is degree 2. And what is this one right here? What's the degree of that term? Well, what's 1 plus 1? Because each one of those variables have a power of 1 on them. Yeah, so these are all degree 2. These are all degree 2. So if something is degree 2, we call it a what? A quadratic. We call it a quadratic. And how many terms does this have? 3. So this is a quadratic trinomial. This is a quadratic trinomial. What about our next one? How can we name this one? What degree is it? It's degree 0. So if something is degree 0, we call it a constant. And how many terms does it have? 1. So this is a constant monomial. A constant monomial. Our last one, what is the degree? What is the degree of our last example? It's degree 1. And if something is degree 1, we call that linear. So this is a linear, and how many terms does it have? 3. So this is a linear trinomial. A linear trinomial. Okay. So for our last 6 things that we need to do before you guys get started on our quizzes, our last 6 things are, it says write each polynomial in standard form based on its degree, and then we're going to name it. So we're going to get that practice again of naming it. So we're going to write each polynomial in standard form based on the degree, and we're going to name it. Okay. So standard form, example A, Zan. Standard form. Can you put that in standard form for me? Perfect. Negative 2x plus 5. Let's see. Kimber, can you name this for us? Name it. Can you name it? So what's the degree? How do we name that? It's not degree 2. What's the power on the, what's the exponent on the variable term? Guys, what? It's degree 1, right? We don't write x to the first power, but there's a 1 there. Okay, that's all right. So what's A? Tell me how to name this. Degree 1 with 2 terms. What do we call that? Linear 2 terms is what? Binomial. Good job. Linear binomial. Okay, next one. Uriah, put it in standard form for me, please and thank you. Okay, whoa. Where are you? Are you on example B? Yeah? Whoa. Hang on. What is next to that x? Okay, so we're right here. How do you say that? 2x squared, that's the first term. 2x squared. Next, plus 3x minus 4. Okay, Matthew, what's the degree? What do we call something that's degree 2? Quadratic, and I'm just going to abbreviate it. I'm going to abbreviate it as QAD. And how many terms are there, Matthew? So quadratic trinomial, TRI. Does that make sense? Okay. Next one, Aiden. Okay. So how many terms and degree, Braden? Terms and degree. We start with the degree first. What's the largest powered? Cubic what? How many terms are there? Braden, are you on example C? You following along with us? Because I don't think you are. How many terms are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So if something has 4 terms, what do we call that? It's a cubic polynomial. A cubic polynomial. Okay. Example number 1. I'm going to pause. I'm going to freeze the screen. I'm going to let you guys do those on your own, and then we'll come back to them. Example number 1. Put it in standard form first. Seamus, number 1, standard form. It should already be done for you, right, Seamus? No? Is it not? Do you not have filled out notes? Well, but number 1, Gianna. 6x squared minus 9x plus 7. What'd you name that, Gianna? Yeah, but what's the degree 2 called? It's quadratic. So the first thing that you do, Gianna, is you have to name it by the exponent power. So the power on the exponent is a 2, right? The variable term has a power of 2. And if it's degree 2, that means it's quadratic. So 6x squared minus 9x plus 7. Number 2. Number 2, Violet. And what'd you name that? Very good. Number 2, negative y squared plus 3y minus 4. This is also degree 2, which makes it a quadratic, and it has 3 terms, trinomial. Okay. Kaden, you got the last one? Go ahead. Okay, so what's the number to the v to the third power? What's the number in front of it? Negative what? Negative 11 v to the third. Say that again. Plus what? It's a v, but yes, plus 7v plus what? Good job. How'd you name that? Perfect. Negative 11v cubed plus 7v plus 8. This is a cubic trinomial. This is a cubic trinomial.